Hope everyone's doing well. Being that it's now 7:03, we will call the meeting to order. Michelle, can we please read the sunshine law?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards, filed with the Borough Clerk, and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Thank you. Can we please have roll call? Sure.
Councilmember Cooper.
He's not attending this evening.
Okay. Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Here.
Councilmember Good.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
And Councilmember Sheridan.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
And for the record, Borough Administrator Jay Delaney.
Here.
And Borough Attorney Mark Moon.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could all please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of those that are still serving the front lines to keep everyone safe and anyone who has been impacted by the current pandemic. Thank you. Whoever has a puppy in the background, if you would mind silencing or muting your phone or computer. Thank you. First, we have a proclamation honoring Red Ribbon Week. Oh, you guys can hear me okay, right? Okay. Whereas the Borough of Keyport values the health and safety of all its citizens, and whereas drug and alcohol abuse in the United States prevents millions of people from reaching their full potential at school, on the job, and in their communities. Whereas drug and alcohol use is particularly damaging to one of our most valuable resources, our children, and a contributing factor in the 3 leading causes of death for teenagers: accidents, homicides, and suicides. Whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention, education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs. Whereas the red ribbon was chosen as a symbol commemorating the work of Enrique Caramana, a drug enforcement administration agent who was killed in the line of duty and has come to represent the belief that one person can make a difference. Whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress back in 1988 to promote this belief and encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement drug prevention efforts. Whereas the mission of the Keyport Municipal Alliance to prevent alcoholism is to promote healthy, productive lifestyle choices, empowering youth and adults to better their community. And whereas a Red Ribbon Week campaign theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for living healthy, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or illegal use of legal drugs. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Borough of Keyport does hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st, 2020 as Red Ribbon Week, and encourages all citizens and community leaders to promote awareness and show their support to a drug-free community, not only during Red Ribbon Week, but throughout the year, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free lifestyle. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause by the Borough of Keyport that we proclaim that week, Red Ribbon Week. Okay. Do any members of council have anything to be pulled from the agenda prior to us opening it to the public? Or any commentary on the agenda itself that the members of the public might want to know about before we open it to them?
Question regarding
Okay.
the bills.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay.
Oh, sorry. This is probably more for Jay. Jay, one of the bills goes for a final payment to the couple of services for the water treatment plant. Has all of this been, I mean, there's a final payment. So has this been signed off by their engineer, our engineer?
It has been signed off, not by the borough engineer, but the special projects engineer, Mott McDonald.
I'm sorry,
Although I
that's
believe
right.
that there had been a request that bill be held for the next meeting, just seeking some clarification on an issue.
Oh, okay. Is there an updated, then I apologize, I have I guess an older list, an older bill list. So we did.
And I'm not, I don't believe that the revised list was distributed. That was the only item to be removed.
No, wait.
And-
We had it on as a resolution to pay out the final contract. We pulled the resolution. Matt's asking about it being in the payment of bills, but I don't think it should have been in the payment of bills if the resolution hadn't passed anyway. So he may be correct that if that was not circulated in the updated payment of bills that went out Friday afternoon, then that shouldn't, we are not ready to pay out that final contract.
I'm looking at, there might have been a new one that Diana sent out.
No, I think this is two pieces that may have crossed. It was actually it was originally on the proposed agenda, but it was pulled before it went out to you guys. But it obviously didn't get pulled from the payment of bills.
Yes, I would request that at the time for the approval of the bills, that it just be referenced that item on page 4 be removed from the bill list.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Good.
That's the only question I had.
And it should be noted to the members of public that regarding resolution 25620, there was some commentary back and forth today regarding that we now have the address listed. The street address is going to be listed in the full resolution because it's only listed on the agenda. So 80 Fulton Street will be referenced in the resolution. I believe Mr. Moon did make a proposed update to that, correct?
Yeah, that it said that forwarded to the to Michelle and to Jay as well.
Okay, great. So just for members of council to know and the public, the address will be added. And a couple other questions that came up about that one were regarding, because it says Middlesex County, that's where the law firm that's representing the resident is located. And our engineer has issued a letter in agreement with the proposal from the resident, correct, Jay?
That's correct, Mayor. Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, so members of council, just so you guys all know, we could discuss it further when we get down to that part of the agenda, but just wanted the members of the public to know in case they were going to ask questions on those items. Anyone else have any, council members have anything before we open it to the public? Can I please have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll go with video call-ins first. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on items on the agenda only? If you do, if you're on video, if you could raise your hand. Okay, next we'll go to the phone lines. Any members of the public wish to speak on any items on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Graham?
Yeah, Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Can you all explain resolution 25720?
Yes. 25720 is because we had a municipal court administrator who has vacated that position quite some time ago. So while we are not having all of our court sessions in person, they are still having court sessions virtually. So it is an imperative role that we refill that position. And there also was someone that accepted a full-time position that had previously been working part-time in our finance department. So that part-time position needs to be refilled. Am I correct, Jay? Is that the update on both positions and what you had requested for staffing purposes?
That's correct, Mayor.
And I believe you've spoken with the CFO as well as the finance committee about both, or the finance chair about these?
With the finance officer, the committee is meeting tomorrow. I'm sorry, on Thursday.
But they're aware that these vacancies existed, right? You
That's
guys had
correct.
talked about that.
Okay, if I can ask on that, how much taxpayer money is they going to be making on that?
This resolution offers the administrator to start the search process if someone hasn't been selected or hired yet, so we don't know what the salary will be, but either one of them would be within the salary range that was established by the governing body back on January 1st at the start of the year.
All right, and a couple of other things. Resolution 25820, can you explain that?
Sure. That's an opportunity to go out with a grant proposal for recreation programming. And that one they are putting in for assisting. Last year we put in for a $1,000 grant that assisted our special needs parent advisory group that's part of our school system to do events such as Touch a Truck and things like that to help offset the cost of that. And then this year they're working on, by way of suggestion of one of the recreation council liaisons, to put in a request for the grant to go toward, if we are approved, to go towards summer camp excursion costs for special needs children.
Okay, and one more thing, resolution 25920, can you all explain that one?
Yes, that one is a very exciting announcement, so thanks for bringing that up. As we know, some of the funding for NPP, which is Neighborhood Preservation Plan, has been put on a tentative hold after this year, just due to current state financial issues. However, the state did allocate the opportunity for any municipality that had been part of the NPP programming to be willing to be offered part of the CARES Act funding to be allocated to NPP specific communities. And we are excited to announce that Nicole Henn, who was efficiently and effectively running the NPP program, has accepted to transfer that position to instead run and operate the $182,000 grant through COVID funding that the borough has now been awarded for businesses within the NPP state approved map.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other members of the public have any discussion on the agenda items?
This is Mike Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport.
Hi,
And
Mr. Lane.
I apologize for the fire whistle in the background.
No problem. I hope everyone stays safe that's responding to the call.
My first item is on committee reports. Councilwoman Pacheco, if you could report on your discussions with the police chief regarding one, the First Street traffic calming via implementing a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and two, the status of installation of a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Broad Street north of West Front Street, which the county has already designated as a 25-mile-an-hour zone. If Councilman Fotopoulos or Councilwoman Pacheco could identify the latest input from the borough engineer on the NPP floodgates across from Fireman's Park. I note that the floodgate on American Legion Drive across from the dumpsters is in place. So the status on the second floodgate. Councilman Good, latest input from the borough engineer on the timeline for the required pump station in the second Beach Park outfall pipe from 25 East Front Street, which is more than a dozen years overdue, and without a timeline, we may go another dozen years. Under communications to mayor and council, there's a letter dated 10/7/2020 from Mike Lane, me, in response to the request by members for pictures of the 9/4/20 balloon release with more than 24 balloons. Two questions. One, and I sent you that letter the day after the council meeting. Who or what was responsible for this activity? And was it permitted or approved? And two, why wasn't this letter, which was specifically requested, listed under communications? And so maybe some point in the meeting you can give me some insight as to how it's determined what letters are listed and not listed under communications. A second letter dated 10/8, 2 days after the council meeting, from me, documented suggestions that R3 bridge be elevated to 6.3 feet to eliminate the frequent flooding problem, which I had documented. Turns out in response, and thanks to Jay, the borough administrator, I got a copy of Trevor's planning information, which called for a 6.4 foot elevation of the roadway, which is great. Finally, in report of departments, usually this time of year we get a report from the tax assessor identifying the sections of the town that would be inspected and what the percentage of access that was allowed for these inspections. And I haven't seen anything so far this year. Under unfinished business, at the last council meeting, I talked about the need for mask and social distancing enforcement for events using borough property. And especially in this time of COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that the curves are going the wrong way in New Jersey. Really significant issue. I reported to the Keyport Police Department that the solicitors from the Knights of Columbus on 10/9, there were 6 of them. 5 of them had no mask at all. One had a mask that it wasn't wearing on his face, and they were coming up to the cars with their buckets right to your car window. I called Councilman Good and asked him to intercede so I can report the next day. There was only 4 solicitors, and 2 of the 4 were soliciting without mask. Again, coming right up to the car window, right up to our car window. So it brings up the whole issue of there's a whole set of borough approved activities on borough property that were approved at the last council meeting. The ghost tours on 10/24 and 10/31, the truck or treat on 10/24, the Elks fundraising in November, and again the truck or treat on 10/30. So what action is the borough going to take to ensure that mask and social distancing are followed? Because they weren't being followed in the events up to now. A couple other unfinished businesses, if you could just give input on the CRS, the CME timeline and milestones for the CME CRS project. You know, the feedback at the last council meeting, it's a CME project. I think CME is handling almost every project, but there's no timeline. Again, the same issue with the TAPS PSIP, pedestrian safety improvement. what the CME timeline is for, and the milestones for the letter to the residents and for the stakeholders meeting. And we've been asking this now for months. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak on anything on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. I just wanted to simply say, I thought we were just talking about the consent agenda this time around, instead of going off a little subject here.
We were, except that this is the second meeting of the month, so committee reports, which is why the second meeting of the month are always much longer, because the council members do their due diligence and they provide an update on all the committees that they serve on. So a lot of what Mr. Lane was asking about were things that could potentially or should be, is what he's requesting to be part of the report process. So it is, in theory, part of the agenda.
Okay, whatever. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Going once. If you're on a cell phone, if you wish to speak, please unmute yourself.
Let
Yes?
I don't know if it's on the agenda, but he just mentions the situation on First Street with the traffic control. Is that on the commission, or do I need to wait until you're up to other topic?
Liz, I'll have an update during my report.
I'm sorry, hold on one second. Liz, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Liz Dinnigan, 213 First Street.
Thank you. Did you get that?
I'm sorry, there's an ambulance right up. Could you put the dog in the backyard? Yeah.
No, that's fine. I do believe that multiple council members are going to be speaking on the 25-mile-an-hour thing.
So I can say something?
We'll wait until after. That'll be public portion at the end.
Got it. Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Okay,
Let me review.
that's okay. Any other members of the public? Okay, can I have a motion to close to the public, please?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hello?
Yes?
Colette, it's Deborah Muller.
Hi, how are you? So the public portion that you had requested to speak in will be at the second public portion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem, but thank you for letting us know you're on the call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we had a motion, a second. Did we do all in favor, Michelle, for the roll call, for the closing of the public? If not, all in favor? Yes, okay, great.
Aye.
So next we will go into committee reports. Councilman Cooper is not here. Councilman Tatopoulos, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Health and Registrar report. The Health and Registrar's report is included on the record in your meeting packets. Of note this month, there was a domestic rabbit that was collected by Associated Humane Society and some more opossums. I'll refer to my comments about opossums, the last report I gave last month. Recycling, as many of you know, good news is the recycling station on Florence Avenue is open. Normal business hours are Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon for drop-off of recyclables and leaf bags for and pickup of leaf bags for Keyport residents. Masks and social distancing are required upon pulling up to the recycling center. The Keyport Environmental Commission did meet. I think that Mr. Lane was asking me about the gate because of the Environmental Commission. I'm going to defer to, first and foremost, the NPP and the Harbor Commission on that one. Our Environmental Commission was awarded an Environmental Achievement Award by the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, ANJAC, for their efforts to restore the dunes at Cedar Street Beach with a living shoreline solution, beach grass, and other plants. I commend the members of the commission, past and present, and I'm proud to serve with them for sure. It is a humble group that does a lot of work below the radar that benefits and serves to protect our diverse ecosystem here in the borough. I commend them, and I know I'm joined by my colleagues on the dais or on the Zoom call and the citizens in the borough in congratulating them and thanking them for their continued efforts. There were a good amount of citizens that also helped with the beach dunes as well. Council President Joe Sheridan will have a report, I'm hoping, on the oyster castles in coordination with the Baykeeper. And Clean Ocean Action beach sweeps are scheduled for next weekend, October 24th. This year, you have to register online to participate, and you can find the registration at www.cleanoceanaction.org. And you need to click on beach sweeps once you get to that page, and there you can follow the link to the registration page. The event this year will be carried out in a modified, safe, and socially distant manner. At the commission meeting, we discussed the outfall pipe at Terry Park near Cedar Street and the erosion that's occurring there as a result. The hope is that we can mitigate this with large riprap bluestone boulders. Further discussion is pending unless it's already been discussed and a solution has been devised. The Complete Streets Core Team and Steering Advisory Committee continue to meet, and we are meeting again in November to discuss how we will proceed with formulating a compliance of the soon-to-come Complete Streets policy. I want to go back to the Environmental Commission report and speak briefly about the meeting that will occur between the chair and vice chair of the Environmental Commission, myself, Councilwoman Pacheco, and the police committee. And the police chief and captain. It's yet to happen, but I'm going to defer that also to Councilwoman Pacheco as well. But it is our intent to deal with the speed limit on First Street and Broad Street and Broadway for that matter. Typically, it's the county roads that we have a great deal of issue with, and some side streets like my own. That's all I have for now for the report, and thanks for allowing me the honor to serve you.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was still on mute. Sorry. Thank you, Councilman Staples. Councilman Good?
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to the fire department, it had for the month of September 38 calls, totaling approximately 120 man hours, bringing its year-to-date totals to 264 calls and about 1,640 man hours. I think they're also selling, because they weren't able to have their the fair this year, they're selling 50/50 tickets. So everybody reach out and help support our volunteer fire department. Also the first aid is having a what I think is considered a silent auction, or and I think that was last weekend, if I get my dates right. Hopefully that went quite well. I would expect that it would. For the planning board, we only had one application for somebody putting a second floor on their house. Oh yes, we also had on October 3rd our annual mandated by ordinance truck inspection of the borough's apparatus. So that was a very nice, socially distant while also keeping care for pandemic reasons inspection. Little more stayed than usually, but we made it through. And let's check my notes here. Mr. Lane actually asked about the pump station, and I'm actually going to toss that one over to Jay if he wants to cover it now or sometime later, because I asked that we figure out, or at least Trevor, our borough engineer, reach out to whoever it is and figure out if they have or when they're going to respond, and if they're just completely ignoring us again, it might be time for notices of violation. So I think that.
Yes, if now's the appropriate time on that issue. The borough engineer has been handling that, as Mr. Lane has indicated. It has been some time since that facility has been operable. There have been ongoing discussions, and as of yesterday, the property owner as well as their contractor have been coordinating with the borough engineer to finalize a couple of technical details. They have not provided us with a specific date, but we have indicated to them that there is not a long window for this to be for corrective action to be taken. So there is progress on that, but I do not have a date at this time.
Can you guys just reference what property you're talking about, just for the record?
It was the First Street
yes,
condo
it's
pump station. I don't forget the actual. Sorry about that.
The First Street pump station one, the one that was never activated, correct, or installed? Right. I just wanted on the record what they were talking about. Okay.
And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Was it never
Okay.
installed? I'm sorry, Mayor. Was it never installed? It was installed. It's just not working, or?
It's there.
That is correct.
I don't know that it's
It was installed,
Okay.
but it is not operable, and it has been some time since it's been operating at full capacity.
Thank
Okay, that's news to me. Originally, I was told that there was just a facade built and that they didn't have one there. So there is one there that wasn't operational. They didn't build a void and cover it.
That is my understanding.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Councilman Good. Councilwoman McDermott.
Thank you, Mayor. So first thing I want to talk about is the Recreation Committee. On October 30th, sponsored by the borough, the Recreation Committee is hosting a trunk and treat event from 5 to 8 p.m. at the waterfront parking lot. It is a first come, first serve arrival for families to enter and set up from 4:30 to 5. 5 o'clock to 6:30 is a trunk and treat, and then at 6:30, we will start Hocus Pocus, the movie. Pizza and refreshments will be provided to all children during the movie. We are requesting all masks and social distancing. Refunds for the Triple Crown 5K on final stages of reimbursement. There were just some open items with Middletown. So that should be resolved. It's the senior center. I do know construction should be in progress, but I would defer to Jay to give us an update on where we are with the construction at the senior center. Library Construction Committee, there are no updates from the state after we submitted the grant for the remaining outstanding Keyport Library repairs. Fortunately, we've been able to offset using the MPP grant, which was approved up to $50,000 in 2020 to offset construction and any artistry requirements, such as roof, stairs, masonry work, and art on the book Dropbox. So that's been a helpful piece to at least beautify our beautiful library. Public Works, Construction, Zoning, Public Maintenance, Library. Not library. Again, please, if you have any incidents of concerns, please use the Keyport Online 311 request link that's on the borough website that allows us to track these and monitor for any next actions and steps. As Councilman Fotopoulos mentioned, the recycling center is open on Saturdays from 9 to 12 in the afternoon. So please utilize that whenever you would like to pick up any lawn bags or put any recycle out there. For the Clean Communities, we had a total of 3,564 man-made objects collected. For this year, we have over 16,000. I do want to talk about the budget. As previously noted, the new state grant for the KCC budget has been approved. Current funding, which is off last year's budget, is near depletion. And Tom Fallon, the current coordinator, is working on making sure that funding for this year is set up appropriately for next year and can carry over. I do want to note that there are several people who actually pick up litter and do not request recognition, and we have 15 volunteers to date. And a Keyport litter cleanup day will be scheduled within guidelines and will be coordinated with all departments concerned. I do want to note the county park systems is seen frequently emptying out the trash cans at the Board Street crossing. Just appreciate it. NPP, first and foremost want to thank all the NPP stakeholder committee members. That includes Councilwoman Pacheco and myself, who are members, the coordinator, mayor, the governing body as a whole, borough administrator, borough employees such as DPW, our engineers, Keyport Police Department, KBBC, and many others, whether small or large capacity, who worked with the artists and or contractors to implement the NPP projects in a quick and timely manner. And I do say that there's many, we've had significant improvements in town because visually and also in infrastructure manner. So I do want to thank everyone who was involved in that. The bench placement program installation started and should be completed at this point. I will also just ask Jay to just follow up if I missed that, if that's not correct. Road closure barriers is actually installed in one location, pending instruction on the other, installation on the other side. And I would defer to Councilwoman Pacheco regarding discussions about, and also some discussion with the engineers for Jay to also follow up with that. The map mural is still in progress. Since it's just a very complex installation of different pieces of art, it's continually being worked on. We do have 3 stakeholders who have suspended their NPP activity: Janet Patel, Lorraine Divazia, Kathleen Galley. And that's because their business is being located in NPP mapping. They would like to also maybe potentially qualify for the NPP COVID-19 grant funding program, which, thank you, Mayor Kennedy, for announcing, which we did get awarded up to $182,000, which is going to be significantly important for any businesses who are eligible within the map to submit for, could be COVID-19 and PPP purchase, or it could be simply purchasing reimbursement for your rental, your taxes, and things like that. So again, applications will be going out, communications will be going out to businesses within that impacted area. So I also want to note that make sure you look at any updates to the NPP map will be listed on the borough website, and you can always look at that. Regarding KBBC, Keyport cash has been given to the senior center members for distribution by the director, and 3 commercial properties have also received Keyport cash. To date, we have distributed $10,000 since summer to benefit Keyport businesses. We do have billboards running at Route 35 and 36. Additional ones are planned to focus on holiday shopping. Sponsorship of the holiday tree was agreed upon by the KBBC board members with a virtual tree lighting planned for December 4th. And in lieu of lights around poles, a request for LEDs, the idea was LED snowflakes to be purchased and displayed. There's a request in the agenda for approval from the borough since the posts that these are placed on our borough property. So what would happen is the flags would be taken down and then we will be able to put up snowflakes and vice versa. So we'll put up the flags again when pending approval as well, when we're ready for that cycle for next year. That's my report. Thank you. And Jay, if you want to just, I don't know if you want to address anything I kind of said no. With the construction.
Yeah, I have nothing to add at this time.
Okay, thank you.
For just clarification, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, but I think you mentioned something about Keyport cash being given out to 3 businesses. It's actually
no,
3
I said three
complexes.
commercial. I said 3 commercial.
Oh, that's what you said, commercial. I just want to clarify, right, like to everyone that that's not commercial, as in they're members of the bid, and they, they're pay the tax assessment into the KBBC. But Keyport cash was delivered to every Keyport residents within those 3 apartment complexes as a way to try and bring money back into the business district during the pandemic. So I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone was wondering. I didn't want anyone thinking 3 businesses or commercial got Keyport cash and not others. It was apartment complexes to the residents within those complexes. So I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry. Thank you. Council President Sheridan? Nope. Why every time? I did it again. Sorry, Councilwoman Pacheco. Councilwoman Pacheco.
No worries. The Harbor Commission met on October 13th. We reviewed and compiled a couple questions about the BRIT account that we will be asking Jay. I think you were there at the meeting, so you know what those questions are. So the 3 pilings over by the Keyport Princess are damaged, so we were talking about plans to replace those. We did have discussions regarding the flooding at Beer Street, so the engineers are going to review the issues and hopefully work out a solution. The Harbor Commission is going to be drafting correspondence to the State Police Marine Unit to discuss creating a no-wake zone around the boat launch. That's the entity that can legally do that. So we're just going to draft our correspondence saying that that's a good idea. We also had discussion about the kayak launch and lockers, and how to make improvements for the next season. Also had discussions about possibly approaching the council for seeing if we can get another set of lockers, but I think that's a little bit in the future. The passive cleaning of the boat launch will be scheduled for April. We want to schedule it now so that way we can get it done for the spring, for the next kind of spring, summer season. Regarding the second floodgate, Mr. Lane, I will follow up with the engineers. Jay, I don't know if you want to try to set up a call between me, you, and Trevor just to get an update about what they've found. I'm probably available later in the week, so we can talk about that offline. And then the next meeting will be held on November 9th. So the Municipal Alliance is back in action. We just spoke a little bit about Red Ribbon Week. It'll be held from October 23rd to October 31st. Along with tonight's proclamation, there's activities for students and parents throughout the week, including some virtual programming. Parents can find the information actually inside the Red Ribbon Week bags. I didn't think I was going to say that. That'll be distributed to all the students. So inside there'll be a flyer with links and things like that. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Later tonight on the consent agenda, there is also the stigma-free community resolution. So this is really to just bring awareness to mental health, and that includes substance abuse disorders. Regarding the green team, we actually had no meeting in September, so the only update that I have is that we'll be meeting next week on the 27th. And the police, there's 993 calls for service, 1 Narcan save, 3 DWIs. The police helped the KEF and the schools distribute book bags with supplies and Chromebooks to the students in September. 2 individuals were charged with a large fight after investigation by our great detective bureau. And 1 officer has returned to duty after a COVID exposure. So I just actually followed up with Captain Torres regarding the Knights of Columbus. And the police department did intercede, and there's reports on that. So I don't know if you want to follow up regarding that. And lastly, so I've been talking with Captain Torres in particular about speed limits. So they've compiled 3 years of crash reports, and discussions are going to happen with the county to review those crash reports and to make some sort of decision. Also, it's my understanding that the BA, Mr. Delaney, also has some ideas about traffic calming with signs and trees. So it's a work in progress, but we're getting there. I think once all that data has been crunched, we can move forward from there. I also just wanted to really quickly, first of all, congratulate the Environmental Commission on their ANJAC award. It looks so beautiful. Our babies look so beautiful and big and wonderful, and the dune has grown quite. It exceeded my expectations, and I have very high expectations for that project. So, and lastly, I really just want to publicly thank the MPP coordinator, Nicole Henn, and the rest of the team. The hard work that team put in to the MPP program is really the reason why we got the grant that we got for businesses out of the CARES Act. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Council President Sheridan.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody to vote. Your ballots are in the mail. Please take care of that. Getting into my report, Finance is meeting this Thursday. I'll talk about mostly 2021 municipal budget and a couple other items. The Historical Society had a Zoom meeting yesterday, their first one. It was impressive. We talked about a lot of ideas. To keep the society relevant, and a lot of it's going to go virtual, and I think that's going to be good news for everyone. No news on senior bus or veterans initiative, as they're currently on hold right now. I want to thank Councilman Fotopoulos for his efforts on helping us get that award. He made an excellent application, and really just a great award, and the Environmental Commission definitely deserves it. And speaking on that, this past Saturday, I was with the Environmental Commission and the New York, New Jersey Baykeepers, Greg Ramaud and Meredith Comey. They came and they look at our Cedar Street Park dune, and they were so impressed. I mean, not only like what Councilwoman Pacheco said, I mean, if you've seen the vacant beach and the little stalks of baby plants that we put up a couple years ago, and then what you see there, I mean, not only within the fence confines is its pack, but the grass has managed its way. It's pushing the water back. I mean, this grass is tough. And not only we're going to have grass, but we're going to have plants that cater to butterflies and bees. And that's really what the Baykeeper wanted to see. They want to see a living New Jersey shoreline, and that goes into the oyster castles. And we're looking at what it would take to permit Keyport something like what they're doing over at Earl. And although we can't plant oysters, we can plant these concrete castles, and they would protect little crustaceans and little fish. And what that would do, that would bring bigger fish and crabs and things like that. And all these things filter the water. Of course, they filter the plastics out of the water. We got to get the plastics out so that we save the crustaceans. But all this is, they also mitigate flooding. And there's a whole big plan. But if you just go to an environmental commission meeting, just listen to the huge plans that they all have. 2021 is going to be a great big year. And I'm really happy to be a part of them with that. Lastly, I have a couple thank yous. Michael Weiss, a grant writer for Millennium Strategies, has been emailing people off the hook, trying to get us more grants. And I just see, as finance, I see email after email, and he's really pushing. So I feel really positive that we're going to be getting a number of grants. And one of the big reasons is Millennium Strategies and Michael Weiss. I just think they're doing a fantastic job, and I hope for the best in 2021. And lastly, I want to thank Jay Delaney. I saw an email where he wrote there was a resident that was having an issue with Maple Place and like a pothole or something like that. He took it upon himself, and he worked with the county. And within 2 weeks, Maple Place is repaved. I don't know how that happened. And I'm not going to say it's all Mr. Delaney, but in a word, wow. It's just, not only did he get back to these residents and he explained the whole situation, but if that's what we got with Mr. Delaney, I feel really confident about Keyport's future. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, thank you, Councilman Sheridan. But in fairness, I can't take credit for all of those things. Sometimes luck is, I'll take luck any day of the week. And it just the coincidence that the gas company was coming back to do the paving of Maple, but we won't maybe mention too much of that.
Okay, thank you. I have a few updates to go through. First and foremost, I think my shirt says it loud and clear, a reminder to, as Council President Sheridan said, to remember to vote. Submit your mail-in ballot. There's plenty of places and ways to be able to do it. There's communication on our borough website, as well as posted on the doors to the municipal building, as well as on social media. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Mr. Delaney, or our clerk, Michelle Clark. Although it's not the municipality's decision on a lot of these things that transpired this year. So I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that there are polling drop box, there are ballot drop boxes in Airport Plaza, as well as over at Aberdeen Municipal Complex. You could drop it in the mail. or you could bring it to the polling locations in person on election day. And I just want to put this out there publicly. I know the municipal chairs were notified from our clerk, and it's on all of our communications, but there are there will be 2 open polling locations on election day. We do not choose these locations. These were chosen by the Monmouth County Board of Elections. One location will be Keyport High School. And I want to give a shout out to all of the staff and the police department and Jay and the board members. Last week we had our bi-monthly articulation meeting, and several topics were brought up that Dr. Savoya sent in an email today, just to make sure everything flows appropriately, since this is the first time the high school will be used as one of the polling locations. That's going to be utilized for certain districts, and then the other 3 districts will be out of Lincoln Hose, correct, Michelle? Lincoln Hose Fire Department. I almost said consolidated. I almost caught myself. So it's Lincoln Hose and Keyport High School are the 2 polling locations that completed ballots can be dropped off at. If you do not have a ballot to complete or a completed one upon entering of the polling location, you will be given a provisional ballot. And the voting machines are being kept for people with disabilities. I've sat on numerous conference calls with staff members of the governor's office for clarification of which disability categories that would be including, and we have not been given an answer to this date. So, but we will continue to find out answers if anyone has any. And as I said, please direct questions to Mr. Delaney, Michelle Clark, or myself, and I will forward it on to wherever the appropriate person would be. And also with that said, obviously we all have our respective opinions and who we're going to vote for, but I would like to commend anyone that put their name on a ballot, especially this year in the middle of a pandemic. It's always a serious choice amongst families, and it's a commitment. So I would just like to acknowledge the fact that, we have candidates. We have some municipalities that no one wanted to run at all. So I think the fact that we have candidates on both sides that want to represent our borough says a lot about our borough. So just a final reminder to please remember to vote. As far as committees and reports, our library trustees meeting was last week. There are several improvements, as everyone's mentioned, thanks to the MPP committee and Nicole Henn, and collaboration with the library director, Janet Horsley. There is a popular Wednesday Crafts with Katie that has really gone over very well, not just with children either. She really somehow, I know it sounds cliche to say comes to life, but she can make a puppet come to life. She really puts a lot of heart and soul into it. It is advertised on the library page, but it is being funded by the Friends of the Keyport Library. So I'd like to give them a shout out as well, and an appreciation for making that possible for our families to have something to watch and crafts to learn and so forth on a weekly basis. Also, this is the time of year that the Friends of the Library also puts on one of their fundraisers, which is the annual Scarecrow Contest. So thank you for everyone who has been assisting with that, including putting the voting of the scarecrows to be able to be virtually done. So thank you. I know that was all a new way that they had to handle that. You can vote in person, and then they'll have an event this coming weekend to announce the winners. I see Mr. Crew on the phone. It's this weekend, right? Or is it next weekend? I'm lost. I don't have my calendar in front of me. I think it's the 24th, correct? Yes. Okay, great. The 24th, they'll be announcing the winners of the Scarecrow Contest. So thank you for everyone that participated in that. That fundraiser is just one example of the way the Friends of the Library is able to sponsor programming for things such as Crafts with Katie. So thank you for our community for continuing to support those types of efforts. The library annual Board of Trustees training was this past Saturday, which is usually in person, but that was virtually held as well. So I did attend most of that. The NPP, as we talked about already, new grant application. Nicole Henn and Jay have been working hard with putting the application packet together, as well as a defined map of the new territory that the state did approve. And Nicole has been out pounding the pavement, so to speak, getting that information out to the businesses. And I believe as of this afternoon, there were half a dozen or at least 4 received by this afternoon. So people are already reading it and submitting their applications, which is wonderful because the applications started getting disseminated yesterday. For anyone that wants information on that, it is available on the borough website, as well as social media. I believe KBBC is going to post it as well. Mr. Straub's on the call. Are we posting that on the KBBC website, right, Jack? Yes.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, thank you. As Councilwoman McDermott announced, KBBC will be sponsoring the tree lighting this year, as Mr. and Mrs. Claus take a little bit of a break, especially during the pandemic, where their normal Santa workshop wouldn't be able to be held inside council chambers where everyone makes their ornaments and so forth. So KBBC has agreed to take what they used to fund for that and purchase a tree and have a tree put up and decorated. And then there'll be a virtual tree lighting. There will not be an actual event, so to speak. So there will be a tree downtown, which is important, as well as the menorah to be put back out as well. And that will be lit. It will not be Thanksgiving weekend as it has been in years past. It will be, I believe it's the Saturday, December 4th. But again, it's just going to be a virtual thing, no big ceremony or everyone gathering around the tree. And I believe that Mr. Claus is going to be taking a long winter's nap to prepare for all of the toys he's going to be delivering. So we are not doing the arrival of the Santa Claus on fire truck, just to reduce any large gathering, which that usually does bring. But there will be holiday festivity lights and so forth and decorations downtown, just so that everyone is aware that our business district is open for shopping. Just want to also point out that Jay in the administration office members of the administration office have been working over the last couple of months. This has been a request for multiple years that never got completed, and that is to complete and to clean up and complete and compile the borough use of property application process. So we will stay tuned, council members, for information on that coming forward. There's currently multiple forms and applications which don't coincide with each other. And as far as policies and procedures, we're going to streamline them as well, just so that everyone's on a more efficient wavelength. In addition to coming up with a form so that when a member of the borough, whether it's an employee, an appointed person, or a volunteer, is out soliciting for donations, that the borough, especially the borough council members, are aware that someone is out representing and speaking on behalf of the borough and collecting donations. And it's a way for us as a borough to be able to go back and thank anyone that was providing donations to any types of events. And it's also just makes it a little bit more official. I know when you're a nonprofit, if you go and ask for donations, there's always a letter that's given and drafted explaining who they are. And it also eliminates some people that, might not know who that volunteer is, and the business owner might not know if it's justifiable to be giving out donations. So that's another process that we need to clean up a little bit. So Mr. Delaney and the staff upstairs have been working on that. So thank you. And a couple other things, just a reminder that there is a 9 p.m. curfew on Mischief Night and Halloween. We have that every year. And that's done by ordinance. So that will continue this year. So we welcome the Keyport families to come down to the movie and the trunk or treat, but they will not be able to linger much longer after the movie concludes. And the other item is the Keyport Senior Center always has every April an annual volunteer recognition lunch, which was put off because we thought the pandemic was going to be over and a short time, but it's not. So what the director and the staff at the senior center have put together is they are putting together a senior center volunteer drive-through, and they're going to give all the volunteers that have worked hard over the last year in the Keyport Senior Center when it was open, and afterwards as well, little goodie bags and that they'll drive through and pick up. And as Councilman McDermott reported, they're also working on care packages for every paid member of the Keyport Senior Center, which will include Keyport Cash in that as well. And the staff do make their wellness calls to the members of the senior center, even though we're not seeing them live. They still have Zoom meetings and just to try and stay in touch with them. And they also do wellness calls to them, just to let them know that they're thought of and cared about, and that there's someone checking in on them, as well as they did do a drive-through flu vaccine clinic as well. So even though the doors aren't open at the senior center, we are definitely still working to make sure our members are safe and informed, and if they need anything on ways to be able to get access to whether it's food or deliveries or what have you. So I just want to give them a shout out for that. Okay, now we move on to the rest of the agenda. Council members, do you have any discussion on resolutions R255-20 through 261-20? Hello? No? No one? Okay. So I guess, can I have a motion to approve items 255-20 through 261-20?
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Michelle, did you get that? That was Councilman Good and Sheridan. Can I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Aye.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, just
Thank
for the
you.
record, we did note that on the payment of bills that we were, just make sure that that $25,000 was pulled from.
Good catch,
whatever
Matt.
that was.
Do we need to re-motion?
Okay.
Michelle, should we re-motion that? Matt, could you re-motion that? And actually also with the amendment to the 256-20 compared to what was in the packet, that street address is listed in the resolution.
Okay, take two.
Sorry.
I will move to approve with the 255-20 being amended to omit the $25,000 payment, and 256-20 amended to include the 80 Fulton Street after the block and lot number as a more commonly known as.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, sorry about that. Communications by consent, we have items number 1 and 2, and then item number 3 is to receive and file, but I would just like to give a mention to Monmouth County Freeholders, the Freeholder Director, Tom Marnone, who once they did receive Federal CARES Act grant money, he pretty quickly put money aside for our businesses to be able to apply to. Other counties didn't receive the federal money. They received it from the state later on, and they modeled his programming to be able to offer businesses the same thing in other counties. So the turnaround time I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it. So both times there's going to be 3 submission timeframes for us to get reimbursed for COVID-related expenses to the borough, which is what this letter is accepting. For municipality expenses, and we have had quite significant expenses on our end. This is payment in full of our request of $56,994 of things that we've placed out of our quote unquote pocket at the municipal end. So I just want to recognize that what we asked for, we received a full refund, if that's the right word, full funding for, not refund. And then there'll be one more opportunity to submit any other expenses incurred by the borough by the end of this year. That'll be the last time that we'll be eligible to apply for that. So we will be trying to make some accommodations and improvements to council chambers in the next month or so that we could submit that for reimbursement as well. So just so in case this meeting setup has to continue a little while longer, there are meetings that cannot continue this way. So we need to start making accommodations ready for if we had to have some planning board meetings or other meetings in person. So that'll be the next project, then we'll submit that for reimbursement for the final go round. So with that said, any discussion on those 3 items of communication from council members? Okay, can I have a motion to approve and receipt and file items 1 through 3? 1 through, and includes the 2A, which is the request. You guys got that on Friday evening. The request for, I said 1, 2, and then 3, but it's 1, 2, 2A and 3, because the lamppost request is in there as well.
Motion.
Second.
Can I please have a roll call, Michelle?
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
and Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
and Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sheridan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have an approval of minutes. I do want to just say there is an update going to be made to those. So whoever motions on that. Originally, the minutes said that Councilman Cooper was absent. He did join the meeting later on, so they're going to change the top of the meeting to say that he joined in later. And in public comment, Councilman Cooper was noted to make a statement that he wants to be informed of information, and they're going to elaborate on that information, that he wants to know anything that the members that attend the food pantry might be beneficial for them to know. He's asking for that information to be shared with the food pantry. So they're going to elaborate a little bit more on that so that in 5 years, we know what that statement was about.
Mayor,
But, those were the only updates.
Mayor, I do see in the minutes that it does indicate Councilman Cooper arrived at 7:28. I don't know if that.
Right, it's on the second page. So they're going just to change it up on top from calling him absent. Mhm.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, that's what you mean. I'll move to approve with those anticipated changes.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
and Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
and Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sheridan.
I have to abstain.
Okay. Thank you.
Reports by department. If I can have a motion to receive the municipal clerk's report, the tax water sewer collector's report, Board of Health treasurer's report, the building department monthly report, and the municipal court monthly report, all for
Motion.
September 2020.
Second.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any no or abstain? Great. Any council members have new business? Any council members have unfinished business? Attorney's report?
Nothing new to report, Mayor.
Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion to open
Motion.
the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we are going to open to the public at this point in time, and it's 5 minutes per person. And we'll go with video call in first. If you could please raise your hand. Ms. Dinnigan? She's still muted. She knows she's trying.
Okay, there we
she
go.
is.
Hi, guys. This is Liz Dinnigan, 213 First Street. I somebody said earlier, I wanted to check on the status of the proposal to Monmouth County freeholders about reducing the speed limit and fixing the crosswalks or adding more crosswalks along First Street. We had, I live on First Street on the corner of Myrtle near Waverly, and there was a motorcycle accident right in front of my house on the 14th. Also, several months ago, one of those stationary fixed speed limit signs, speed monitor signs, was placed directly in front of my home, which I was extremely upset about. It was a terrible eyesore. I wasn't even consulted about it. And I said, let me give it a chance and see if it's effective. Let's see what kind of changes are made. Meanwhile, every single morning I walk my dog around 6:15 a.m. every morning, and cars are flying down the street at more than 40 miles an hour, and it's pitch black out. And I'm just afraid if my dog has to go to the bathroom too close to the curb that we're going to get sideswiped. The traffic is just ridiculous. And without like any kind of officer there enforcing the speed limit or ticketing, I mean, if there's no consequences, there's not going to be compliance. And I just don't really understand what is going on with that sign if no tickets are being issued. Is it being monitored for a study? Or, I mean, I want to see speed reduced just as much as anybody on First Street. Something needs to be done, though. It's dangerous. And every time I want to walk the dog across that crosswalk right in front of my house, nobody stops, because I don't know if anybody sees it. I don't know if it needs a new paint job or one of those yellow signs that says it's a New Jersey law that you have to let pedestrians cross, something. But I have I have two kids that are riding their bikes and running around, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt. There's so many kids on bikes now with nothing else to do, and they're constantly on First Street. It's just really concerning that something else is going to happen, and I just wanted to know what was being done and what's the status of it. I spoke to the Monmouth County Traffic Safety Commission about it, and I wanted to make sure I did that before I spoke up at the meeting, but they told me that the speed monitor was put in by Keyport Township itself. It wasn't something that was borrowed from them. It was put in by like our police department. So I just want to know what's happening.
I'll defer to council.
So a little bit to this, but then I don't know, I think Captain Torres is on. She might be able to speak more. I know that they've put together the crash studies, and they're going to have people from the county come out and investigate and look at the street and make some sort of plan going forward. I don't know, Captain Torres, if you want to jump in with any further details. Maybe not. Liz, let me follow up with Captain Torres again. I'll get you an update.
She's here. She's right here.
Here? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I just takes a second to unmute myself and stuff. Yes, I met with also the county traffic. I've been on the phone with them relentlessly for about a week, speaking to supervisors, their traffic safety department. I also met with the borough administrator, and we had come up with a plan. We believe it or not, the police department has very little to do with actually changing a speed limit, especially when it's a county road. So there were certain stuff that we needed to do research-wise, which we did. We pulled our 3 years of crash reports, and then it goes from there. I met with the borough administrator, and we had discussed, he had actually some great ideas on how to make the appearance of a narrow roadway. It just stops people from speeding when they're appearing to go into a more narrow section. So I'll let Jay speak on that. And as far as the stop sign, the speed sign goes, we can move that easily. We just thought that was a great spot to alert people so they can be alerted to their speed. And it's going through research and studies. Those signs, a lot of times, when they put your speed limit right in front of your face so big, sometimes it's shown to slow people down. We've researched, like, typically enforcement doesn't always slow people down. There's a large amount of people that roadway is a throughway. In the past, we've done this before. We went through this whole thing and we stopped people. What we found is that a lot of the actual people that complained about the speed being too fast were the very same people that we ended up stopping. And I can't change what happened. This is exactly what happened when we started stopping people before. A lot of times they'll understand that if we write tickets to 3 people from out of town happen to pass by in speed. That's why they say that typically enforcement isn't the only answer. There's a lot of other answers and research that has to be done. I think the borough administrator and I, like we talked about crosswalks and narrowing the view of the roadway over there with trees, because there's a bunch of different sections coming off of Broadway and Stone Road was a big issue, because they're coming straight off of really like the highway, and they come down that section really fast. So we're definitely in talks of what to do. I don't know if Jay wants to speak next as to our next steps. But as far as that speed limit sign, we'll take that out if it's bothering you. All you have to do is give us a call and we'll just come take it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jay, can
And
I
Mayor,
jump in here before because
Ms. Finnegan, if you can actually send that in writing to the captain or the police department and CCJ, just so that we have that, so when we move it somewhere else, people know that, why we're moving it.
I just also wanted to just suggest the speed issue is coming right around that tricky bend from Union Beach. So like if it was, right,
That's what she was talking about, Broadway and Stone.
100% right. And like if you move it a little further, even like, I don't want to put it in other people's homes either, but like by Cedar Street, where
the police department will review,
just to slow down a little bit, because where I am, it starts the straight stretch, for the most part. Okay, I'm gonna, I'll write you an email.
Hey, Jay,
Thank you.
Can I just jump in here? I'm sorry, Mayor. Because if Jay's going to answer that question about narrowing and stuff, what are the requirements to? Because this is speeding around town is, I guess it's unfortunately not limited to, First Street. It's kind of all over, and I know we're limited in terms of county roads, but some of our local roads are also. Like people like to think it's a drag race. What can we do to lay down speed bumps and speed humps and stuff?
You know what, Matt? I when I called up the traffic commission, I'm sorry to interfere, but she said the issue with that is there's like a bumpy sound, and then people complain they want the speed bumps put in, and then it makes like a louder noise than the resident is expecting, and that could be really annoying for the people that live there also. Just saying.
I will say that for a couple of years, we did reach out to the county to put speed bumps in, and they were anti-speed bumps. But in relation to your comment about other roadways, there's also other reporting being pulled and compiled by the police department, especially like Church and Osborne in regards to stop signs as well. I was actually asking, and Jay and Chief Hafner are working on it to compile data over there as well. Whether we put maybe that whole grid of town becomes 4-way stop signs everywhere, right? Maybe sometimes when they have to continuously stop, they're not going to have the option, right? And then right now it's actually confusing, like which road it's a stop here but not here, and then you go, and then so I think maybe if we tried to do a temporary thing of making that whole grid all 4-way stops, but before we can even take it further, they're doing preliminary studies on that as well. So I think there's the complete street topics that everyone's talking about too, about traffic calming measures. So it's definitely at the forefront, I think, of every member of the dais and the administration, as well as the police department, to try and make, as many efforts as possible about traffic calming, and then traffic flow, right? So I know everyone always wants to talk about in front of the drive-through of Wells Fargo Bank. That's no longer Wells Fargo Bank, but was last week, I guess. Kind of at the side of McDonough's, that where you want to try and turn on there, or all the way up to the diner. It's so narrow, right? But I think that's what Captain Torres was talking about. Automatically, everyone by default slows down there. It's kind of like when a road is bumpy and has potholes, everyone goes slower. And then as soon as it's paved, everyone starts going faster. Everyone complains that they're speeding. So there's always two sides to all of it, but safety, I think, absolutely is at the forefront of everyone's mind on the dais in the police department.
Yeah.
So,
about Complete Streets, one of the demonstration projects that we are looking at is actually over by where the trail in Maple Place for like weird, for lack of a better term, is to figure out a traffic calming place there as well, because I know that that's very dangerous. I always see kids, well, I used to always see kids walking to school through there. I know a lot of people use the trail. When I go to work every day, I drive past there. So we're definitely want to make, I think the goal, at least a goal of mine, is to try to make the borough walkable, drivable, bikeable, just safe.
And Mayor, if I may, on
Mm-hmm.
that note, there have been several references to the Complete Streets program. And let me, by way of introduction, say that while this specific complaint is regarding one street or one area of the street within the community, there are two ongoing initiatives underway. One is the Complete Streets program, which is looking to develop policies, one component of which is pedestrian safety and the compatibility of streets for both vehicles as well as pedestrians and bicycles. There is also, we are in the very early stages of the Pedestrian Safety Improvement Program, which is there are 4 specific areas of town which are part of that design study that are underway currently, one of which is the First Street roadway. So the combination of those two initiatives will result in long-term review and improvements. In terms of your specific request, as Captain Torres has indicated, they have compiled some crash data. We will reach out to the county and provide that data. Ultimately, it is up to the county to perform a traffic study of the specific area to determine the appropriate speed limit. And that effort has begun and is underway. But again, in terms of a more holistic view of the community, we have these 2 separate initiatives underway. One which is looking at a community-wide development of policies to improve pedestrian safety, and then the other is more a specific looking to improve our pedestrian safety in 4 specific areas within the community, one of which is First Street.
Thank you.
Jay, is that part of TAP?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. The reference didn't sound familiar, but TAP's where my, yeah, I understand.
It is alternatively referred to as the TAP, which is the Transportation Alternative Program. That's the funding source. The pedestrian safety improvement is what the ultimate goal is of the design and construction.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I appreciate it.
Is the floor open for further input?
We can't hear anybody.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I put myself on mute when Jay was speaking, so there wasn't a back feed. Any members of the public on the phone wish to speak? If you do, please hit *6 or unmute yourself on your phone. And I'm going to go with Deborah first because she was waiting in queue before. Deborah Mueller, are you still on there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, great. So what you'll have
I
to do
wanted
is
to
if you
ask-
could just state your name and address for the record, so we have that documented, and then you can go on with your statement or concern.
Deborah Muller, 30 West Front Street, Down to Earth Wellness.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask the council if there has, with being on the ballot this November for recreational marijuana, I wanted to find out if the council has an opinion or has discussed voting on whether they will allow it in town or not.
Do any council members wish to speak on that, or I believe the point, Matt, you were leaning forward, was that to speak or just to get comfortable?
I was to get comfortable, but I'll add my 2 cents in. This came up, I guess we had a couple of presentations over the last couple of years by, we had some veterans with PTSD that came down and gave us a couple of presentations, and about that was limited to medical marijuana, as well as I think it was the precursor to what's on the ballot now. I don't know exactly what the limitations that if the constitutional amendment passes, what the state's limitations are going to be in terms of where any of the facilities can be. I'm not discounting anything out of hand. Along the same lines, I'm not agreeing to anything out of hand, without seeing what the plan is on, I guess, for what it's worth, it may be extra revenue for the borough, but also on the flip side, there's going to be some issues with quality of life issues. So right now, I guess I'm ambivalent to it because it hasn't actually showed up yet. So, I try not to play with hypotheticals.
If I may, for what it's worth, I voted yes. I think that we should certainly sit down with all the entities that need to be involved in that discussion, including the police, figuring out a way to safely bring it to town, where shops may be located, what, again, I don't really know what the law will look like once it's voted. And I think that'll do a lot, but I do think that it'll bring revenue to the state, it'll bring revenue to the town. I just think we need to figure out how to do it and do it right.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because there are towns that have already banned it. From what I understand, the state is giving towns the option to opt in or opt out. For instance, Hazlet has already banned it. So that's why I wanted to find out from Keyport what they thought about the matter.
Mayor?
I think, so go ahead.
For the record, I'm not going to speak for the others, but Councilwoman Pacheco and Councilman Good already stated that, implied that they are, and I don't see an issue with it, but again, we need to, I wouldn't support a ban. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
So I think if I could just express, I know there have been members of the public that had asked the governing body to be proactive and write, like you're saying, what other municipalities would do, opt in, opt out. That's been going on for 2 years now. I think the current governing body's pleasure was to kind of hold off. No offense, Mr. Moon, but I think it was a hold off on waiting to incur legal fees to draft all of this, and then not have anything move forward from the state. So I think as much as a lot of municipalities jumped the gun 2 years ago and started implementing everything, now it's those municipalities have completely different governing bodies on the dais potentially, right? So I think while I think most people can vouch for the fact that I'm a very proactive mindset type of person, on this one, I think we've kind of been waiting to see, because even if the vote goes through on the ballot, when the votes are done being tabulated, it's not going to go in effect December 1st, right? So there'll still be time for the municipalities to decide how they're going to handle it in the proper way. And there's multiple components of that. There's the component of whether the municipalities are allowing distribution, and then there's going to be, depending how the vote goes, and then there's also the topic of growing, right? Like a facilities location. So I think there's a lot to come forward with that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't maybe appoint a committee, which would include the police commissioner and the police department, and then maybe another member of the governing body to sit on that, as well as the administration. So I think what we're saying collectively is that the conversations aren't off the table, but they're not solidified on the table. I think that's a good way to summarize it.
Okay.
Mayor, if I can just comment. I will say that part of
Mr. Moon.
Part of what we're going to have to see is, as Councilman Good referenced, how the legislation is going to format itself. Most, if not every municipality, is going to have to at some point address some sort of zoning aspect of it. So there will be towns that, if they're allowed to, they'll basically zone, sales or places where sales can happen. And so I think that every municipality is going to have to make a decision of if they want to have it, specifically where it should go. So, even some sort of plan, just so that you don't have, so that every municipality can have some sort of say as to if these type of businesses are going to be part of the towns, where they should go, and how they should operate. So that should, at the very least, is going to be something that's going to need to be discussed, not just by Keyport, but by every town in New Jersey.
Absolutely, right. Absolutely. But I don't think the governing body as a whole the last couple of years was ready to move forward on it, because I think they wanted to see because if we would have done this 2 years ago when they first started talking about it, now it's 2 years later, exactly. Right? So I don't think it's not really a choice later on, but until we hear the guidance was coming forward from the state, I don't think it was prudent to write
absolutely
information yet.
And I think that Mr. Moon actually articulated it better than I did. I'm certainly not against it, but I do think there's a lot of moving parts to it. And that does include zoning and enforcement. And I think that those are the pieces that we need to think through.
Okay. Yeah, that's the kind of information that I'm looking for. Because basically I applied for a license. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but there are going to be a certain amount of licenses for businesses throughout the state. And having my store in Keyport that I have now, which does CBD, I probably would leave that store the way it is and do a different location. So zoning, yes, that's something I would need to know about.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
That out.
Thank you, Deb.
Okay.
Thanks.
All
That
right.
was
Thank you.
a good conversation.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Any other members of the public on the, we have a video person, yes, Ms. McNamara?
Hi, thank you. Kathleen McNamara, 162 Broadway. So I appreciated the information about, keeping an eye on our seniors and what's going on with that. That's always good to hear, with the center being closed and that being a hub. It makes me curious though. I know Councilman Sheridan touched on the skipper. What, if anything, we know about the status of that? Because I have from time to time seen like SCAT buses go down the side street by me. So I know they're running, but I don't really even know what the full setup was with the skipper in terms of what kind of drivers we had and how that was going. And I feel like we just got it and it's sitting there. And I'm just wondering if we're looking at workarounds to be able to use it.
Oh, you're
so,
Go ahead.
Sorry. So obviously that was a huge heartache to pull that off the road at the beginning of the pandemic. But I do believe that we were one of the municipalities who were at the forefront of, unfortunately, shutting down our senior centers, and senior bus transportation. But I also believe that we kept many people alive by doing so. There was several areas of hot zones that a lot of people were traveling to on other means of transportation for senior citizens. adult daycare centers that were not part of Keyport. So a lot of the seniors that are members of the senior center also attend other types of organizations or facilities. And we were pretty quick to, once we heard, the stats that were coming out from pretty high sources right in the beginning of March. I think of March 12th was the first day our senior center was closed. And then shortly after that, we closed down the transportation. But there has been continuous communication to residents, not just members of the senior center, but both high rises, as far as if they needed transportation to get groceries. The TGen Foundation was assisting in a great way in the beginning, as well as our OEM officers were also a point of contact that if anyone was stranded and couldn't get transportation for food or groceries or prescriptions, that communication and resources have been available continuously around the clock to them. But as far as actual transportation and what the purpose of the Skipper bus was to be able to have residents have better access to different programming and shopping within the borough of Keyport. So we had just been working, Jack and I had been speaking. He had attended Jack Straub from KBBC back when he was president, attended with me to the some of the senior bus transportation committee meetings, and we were about to implement the senior discount and try and encourage the business owners to have a senior discount day. I think we were going with Tuesday or Wednesday, again, at the start of all of this, so that never moved forward. But eventually, I mean, that was funded to us through a grant that Councilman Sheridan, Councilman Cooper, and former council members worked on with the borough administrator in New Jersey Transit. I will say that since we've had it off the road because of the pandemic, it has been nicely decaled now. At least the name of it's on there, because that was one of my things, is that no one even knows that we're paying for these bus drivers out of municipal money to operate the bus, to have us access to our provide for our seniors. Right prior to the start of this, some of the committee members, Councilwoman, former Councilwoman Lamberson is one of the committee members, and she worked with the school district to be able to have the seniors attend the rehearsal of, I don't remember, sorry for not quoting this correctly, it was either the central school play or the high school play, and I believe that was in February. So the seniors were able to be picked up at the 8 drop-off pickup places throughout the municipality so that they could attend the rehearsal at the school. So things like that were just about like fully up and operational, as well as just continuous loop around the borough. And then the other one that was a huge asset was providing transportation on Saturday afternoons and Sunday mornings, so that they would be able to, the senior residents and disabled population residents were able to attend houses of worship services. So cumulatively, that was the overall goal, and it still remains the overall goal. But safety, we would have to, I mean, Monmouth County operates SCAT, which is great, but Monmouth County definitely has more manpower than we have. So after every shift, we would have to have DPW come in and sanitize the bus, and we have to just be careful of the safety of our bus drivers and so forth. So, but the continuous communication from our from the Zoom meetings that anyone could be on for the senior population, not just, they don't have to be residents. I mean, they don't have to be members of the senior center. I've attended a couple of Zoom sessions with them, and they'll ask questions. But to be honest with you, a lot of them are, I mean, as I said, the communication is there. But the other thing is that not only does SCAT operate, but Monmouth County Fulfill, or the Fulfill program of Monmouth County, Monmouth and Ocean County, is a food pantry, so to speak, food bank operation. And they go to both senior high rises once a month. So there's times where previously, before the pandemic, they were having, like the one on Broad Street, they usually saw about 30 to 45 residents come down. Now maybe 2 do. So it's either because some of the residents have gone to stay with family during this pandemic, or they're fine and they're getting the groceries that they need. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. It was just sad to see it sitting there. I walked down the street the other day,
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions about that. Thanks for the explanation. What is the state guidance for public transportation? So let's start with that.
I don't have the state guidance in front of me right now, but it's really just some, there's a lot of different components as far as different things that have opened up or not opened up. So I know we don't really have the staff that can go and sanitize the bus every day.
Who sanitizes the police cars every day?
That they're not done every day.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, the state guidelines in general for public transportation has followed CDC requirements in terms of distancing to the best, most possible and reasonable. It does reduce substantially the occupancy limits as well as the really the efficiency of the operation. But more importantly, and probably most importantly, the population that this bus transportation serves is the at-risk population. So while we could certainly come close, if not meet the requirements for public transportation, the additional level of concern for the at-risk population that utilizes this service is the primary consideration as to when this service will be back in operation.
Understood. If we could, and we would follow the guidance of the state, obviously, or it's really the state that's sending it down. If we were considering opening it up, considering that we're having it appears that we're encountering somewhat of a surge now. I can see the reasoning behind not opening it up, but I would hope that we're as with everything we've done so far, following the science.
The other thing, Councilman Patopoulos, as you're aware, we reopened the recycling center, right? But that was with much thought and suggestions, but it's outside and social distancing and masks can be provided, right? A senior bus, it's consigned. So we're glad that we have the 18 passenger bus that Councilman Sheridan has chaired that committee for years on and worked with Millennium, as you pointed out, just on many components of that bus. But I forget where I was going with that train of thought. Oh, it's a small bus, right? So air quality, circulation isn't the same as other things that we've been beginning to reopen, such as the waterfront, such as the recycling center. We just have to be careful with that. But I'm pretty sure that if we were able to, we would probably reach out to the bus drivers that were driving before and offer them their same schedule back.
Just like to point out that also we did have some scheduling problems, so it is difficult to find somebody with the CDL license, which is necessary to drive that around. So that's also a consideration.
Correct. Any other members of the public have any questions?
Michael Lane, First Street.
I'm listening.
Regarding the signage that the facility that displays the speed of automobiles, that facility in the past was mounted on the pole at my house. I welcome the borough to bring it back and mount it on the pole. It's right across the street from the firehouse. Also, a few years ago, we did traffic measurements right in front of my house, and there's an excess amount of traffic on this street. It's a through street between Route 36 and 35, the bypass, and we measured high traffic. Now, what I'm concerned about is, it's 4 years we've been talking about this, and I'm not getting a strong feeling that we're making a great progress. This is a real quality of life issue. I know from the Environmental Commission work that Mike Palmisano did, there are issues not only in terms of the number of accidents, but there's issues in terms of the amount of traffic, issues in terms of how close single-family homes and multifamily homes are to the curb, and the width front yard width of the lots. And these all come into play that say we should not have a speed limit over 25 miles an hour. And Mike has pulled all this stuff together. And so it's not only the number of accidents, but it's the amount of excess speed, the amount of excess traffic, and the fact that this is a high density street, a very high density. My lot is 36 feet wide. Two of my neighbors' lots are less than 40 feet. Matter of fact, 3 of them are less than 40 feet wide. And when you look at the criteria, we should not be on a high speed street. And so I don't know why it doesn't seem, as I say, since 2016, we don't seem to be able to get this ball across the goal line. Mr.
Lee, if I could just comment on that for a minute, please. While I can understand and relate to your frustration, I would like to point out that I served on the Environmental Commission for 5 years, and I've been a member of the CERT team for almost 8. So from safety perspective and an environmental and quality of life, I don't speak alone on this dais when it has not been a priority of every single member of this governing body. And as you know, there's been differences on this dais. Safety and environment and quality of life is a consistent common factor amongst all of us. And as I said, I can understand the frustration where it seems like it's taking a long time, but in order for us to be able to implement even small baby steps in this pathway to where we want to see the future, as far as the circulation within the municipality being safe for all users, whether they're a pedestrian, a bicyclist, motorcycle, mom with a stroller, dad with a stroller, or a vehicle. We want it to be, we all wish that it was all moving faster, right? But all of this requires research. It requires working with the county. It requires working with the state. It requires working with a lot of different avenues. So in order for that to move forward, that requires funding, right? So we don't have the liberty to just go add, all this extra money at the burden of the taxpayer. So we had to go out for grants. And some of that took a year or two process of submitting and resubmitting applications to get the funding, to get the engineering studies underway. We were all in support of the Complete Streets. When I learned about it in grad school that I brought it to the Environmental Commission. So yes, 8 years actually is a long time to be talking about the same topic. But I could tell you, and I assure you, that Mr. Delaney probably is already tired of hearing just the words Complete Streets, because that's how many meetings are taking place weekly just to be able to get some of these projects off the ground. And that's just Complete Streets. And as you are aware, because you were one of the first people that were part of the TAP program, or pedestrian safety, whichever wording we want to use right now, it's because of those meetings that took place several years ago that we are all sitting on and in these committees, whether it's from the police commissioner sitting on them with the police department, or whether it's Councilman Patopoulos from the environmental sitting on it. And when I say inclusive, I mean inclusive as far as that Complete Streets. There are so many different varying components of that Complete Streets project, much, 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 much larger than we ever anticipated it to be. It was going to be one way in on Broad Street and one way out on Main Street. It is now a borough-wide, collectively holistic approach of looking at how we can make it more incentives than what we originally were talking about back when Victoria Pacheco and I had attended the first statewide Complete Streets Committee convention together. So I understand the frustration that it seems like it's taking long, but it is definitely not for a lack of effort from any members of the municipality employees, police department, or the governing body dais.
I would comment, my focus is on the Pedestrian Safety Improvement Program, which we have a grant of $700,000 plus for, and I would like to see that move. Second item is the pump station on First Street, where the Hovnanian built the townhouses. I'm sorry, is the call still on?
It's still on. Mr. Delaney and Matt both gave an update on that one.
Okay. No, I was just going to share with you that
Sure.
before the townhouses were built, there was a pump station there, and I believe it had a pump facility in it, but it was only about 4 feet above the roadway level, and which put it in an elevation, a very low elevation. We had a storm, and I don't remember which one it was, that put 2 or 3 feet of water in that parking lot and knocked that pump station out. When Helvanian came in, they raised the wall around the pump station from an elevation, it was probably an elevation around 7 or 8 feet, an elevation of 13 or 14 feet. And to my knowledge, a pump was never installed after it was rebuilt by Helvanian.
Okay, that's what I was referring to before. I did think that there was something that was missing from the developer standpoint, correct, Mike?
Right.
Sorry,
My understanding, and Trevor wrote a report on it, that there's not even any electric service to the pump station.
Right. That's what I knew. There was something that the developer had not completed for it to be functioning.
Right.
It wasn't that it just broke, right?
No. I think, as I say, after the flooding, and then when they built it, the pump was never put in, and there's no electric service there now.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing, the NPP gate. I have been monitoring this week during the new moon tides, and its parking lot has been flooded every day. I will put the report together in about another day when the new moon tides get below 6.5 feet. Very serious flooding. The Kiwanis flea market, you should see the pictures. And so there's no way the floodgates at that entrance to Fireman's Park will achieve its objective of keeping cars out of the water.
Okay.
And I look forward to hear what the engineer, I will copy that report to Trevor as well as today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak?
Yes.
If you're on the phone, please. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes.
Graham.
Yeah, Homer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. A couple of things here. It's on the water plant here. First place, despite improvements on our water plant, why is there still some brown water in parts of our borough of Keyport?
We have not had any recent reports of brown water in the borough of Keyport after the last hydrant flushing, but that's why we're asking for the final payments to be held until we have more consistent operations when the plant is actually operating, to make sure that we don't have any more issues. I mean, it is, important to note that, as Mr. Delaney has explained numerous times to myself, as well as governing body and a couple times at council meetings, if we could wave a magic wand, we would have to redo all of the pipes in the borough. And
I'm not asking for a magic wand, Mayor.
Excuse me?
I'm not asking for a magic wand, Mayor. Despite
No, I
these improvements, there's
understand,
still
but
some
a
brown
lot
water,
of it
so that's just the Keyport.
What I'm explaining though is that it's not necessarily the water that's coming out of the water treatment plant. It's also because of when it's being flushed, it's unsettling the settlement at the bottom of the old pipes. So it's not necessarily just the water treatment plant issue. It's a combination of an issue. But so I just wanted to point out that it's not just the water treatment plant issue.
Well, that's part of the issue right there because it's inconveniencing some of the residents in Keyport.
I understand.
And
we
also,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And also, in spite of these improvements, why are our water bills still so high?
I'm not aware of the fact that there was anything coinciding with us being able to drop the pricing of water when the treatment plant was complete. I'll defer to Councilman Sheridan or Jay to answer on that one from finance or administration.
Okay, I suggest you all take a look at that.
Okay.
I mean,
And also,
Elmer, just for,
one
just
last thing.
for, Elmer, just for edification, the rates for the water and sewer haven't been raised in years.
at least 10. It's been very consistent. We're trying to pump our own water so that we have the opportunity to reduce the water costs, but we've been very.
So we're still under contract to purchase water from American Water, right?
That's true. We need to
So
get redundant system.
we're not even year round on our water treatment plant yet, which, so.
Okay. But I suggest you all take a further look at that and stuff like that. And also one last thing, as far as Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus goes, even though they won't be able to appear because of the pandemic, they should at least, for the kids' sake, you should at least have them virtually on the borough website so the kids can see them and they would enjoy them and stuff like that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great idea. That's a great
Thank
idea.
you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public on the phone? If you wish to speak, please unmute yourself or push star 6. Going once, going twice. Any members on video wish to speak? Please raise your hand. Okay, can I please have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.